doing?
I'm reading.
Yes, I'm sure. Yeah.
Okay, Carol, you can go here and do missionary today and
Looked out and saw.
always on a Sunday morning, right?
So glad everyone's here. Sorry that it snowed and we have fewer people, but I'm pleased to welcome Ken Axelson, who's one of the missionaries that we support, local ministry. And he's with Athletes in Action. And he'll let us know about his ministry and what's going on there so we can keep informed about the people that we help to support. Ken? Oh, yeah.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good to see you.
Ken, would you like a podium and stand down here?
I'll probably just stand over here
Okay, very good.
or come down
Whatever you want to do.
all the way.
You were gonna go get the podium and carry it.
I got a good arm.
Perfect. So you'll hear a little bit of this again in the service, since I'll do a little just a brief update. But thank you very much for supporting us. Believe it or not, it's been about 8 years since we've been with Athletes in Action. Before that, I pastored for 17 years and then transitioned to AIA. And your support is precious to us, and your Christmas gift is precious to us, and the kids really appreciate the Christmas gift because it helps with the Christmas presents. So we're very thankful for you and for your pastor. One of the words that I wanted you to think of while as I'm talking this morning about Sunday school is really the word multiplication. Okay, so I don't know. Did anybody here like a couple years ago? I think I was here and I gave a little update. Does anybody have no idea who I am at all? Raise your hand, because then I'll make sure. Okay, good. Thanks, Nick. So Athletes in Action started in the 60s, and it's a division of Campus Crusade for Christ. Campus Crusade for Christ's new name is Cru Ministries. So we are part of the AIA division, and basically the ministry is about 600 staff members in the States and overseas, about 90 different countries. And the main purpose of the ministry is to use sport in order to present the gospel, and then to teach people some of the lessons from sport and how we can relate them over to life. And then we teach gospel lessons in that area. So we work with pro players, college players, and then we are mainly involved with the community and with kids camps that we do. And then there's a lot of missions trips that go on. So when I talk about multiplication, there's two verses that I wanted. You've heard of these verses before, but 2 Timothy 2:2, which says, "What you have heard from me in the presence of many witnesses, entrust to faithful men who will be able to teach others also." And then in Ephesians chapter 4, it says to equip the saints for the work of the ministry, for the building up of the body. So one thing that I should have known this after pastoring for the 17 years, but one thing that we did when we shifted over to the ministry with Athletes in Action was that we started to get into what we were doing, and we were so excited that the camps were working and that kids were coming, and then we kind of maxed out what we could do, and then we were like, this is pretty much all that we can do. So we started thinking, okay, now we need to multiply more people like ourselves so that they can do the same thing. So that's kind of what we're doing right now is really multiplying leaders and churches and helping them to be able to do it on their own, because we can't be everywhere. So this screen that you see here, just this summer we had 15 camps, about 750 kids, about 1,000 parents hanging around on the sidelines. One thing that was exciting was that we went into Pennsylvania this year, and we went into Ohio, and next year we'll be doing Pennsylvania and Ohio again, and then also we'll be doing Florida and New York. So we're slowly multiplying out in what we're doing. You can go to the next slide. Okay, so these are some of our coaches. These coaches actually here were from Germany. They came over, it wasn't this year, it was a couple years ago. These coaches came over from Germany. What people will find out about what we're doing, and they'll send teams over, and then we will help develop them and teach them about how to run a camp. Really, it's not rocket science at all, but we just, as you know, will help the church train the coaches. They can produce the camp, and then the gospel is presented. So then again, more people that we can train, the better. But one thing, it says video project there. One thing that we're starting to do this year, and we hope to finish it probably by March, is say somebody contacted us from, for example, Florida. That's happening this year. So we have 40 coaches around New Jersey that help us. The coaches are kind of the key component of what we do. So if we go, so if you remember, you originally did a camp at Bradley Beach. Now Asbury Park, First Baptist Asbury does a camp at Bradley Beach. The church kind of fills in all of the things that need registration people, cleanup people, snack people, nurses, all that. And then what we do is bring in more of the soccer expertise. So that's, and then the coaches also need to know how to present the gospel. So that's kind of and we bring the equipment. But that's kind of the key component. So if we start a church in Florida, if we help a church in Florida, obviously we can't send our coaches down to Florida. So what we're starting to do now is we'll communicate with the churches in Florida. So I'll either be on the phone or I'll Skype them or something, and we'll train the churches from a distance on the phone. And then what we will do is the key component that we bring are the coaches, but we can't bring them there. So we're developing this series of video trainings for coaches. So if I work in a church in Florida, I work with them and I say, do you have anybody that knows about soccer? Generally, there's a few people. I talk to those few people. They get a couple other people. So that's kind of my team in Florida now, that I'm responsible for training in the Athletes in Action way of doing the camp. But we're going to do that based on a video series. So then they'll look at their coaches, they'll be in front of the videos, and they'll learn how to do the camp that we want it done, the way that we want it done. And it'll also show them all of the training that they're going to do for the age specific. So if they have a coach for 5 to 7-year-olds, they'll look up how we want to do that. And then basically 3 groups all the way up to about 13 years old. And then there'll also be gospel presentations on that video, because in order for us to call it an Athletes in Action camp, there has to be some kind of quality control in order for us to put our name on it. And also we want to make sure that the gospel's presented correctly, or else it's just another camp, right? And you can do soccer camps all over the place. That's not really hard to do, but in order to keep it focused on the Lord, that is more difficult to do. So that's one of the ways that we're going to be to multiplying into different states, so that we don't have to travel all over the place, because that's not cost efficient at all for us to do that. Again, going to the theme of multiplication, one of the other things that we started thinking about was, besides being thrilled with the amount of kids and parents that were coming to camp, that was great. But we have just here in New Jersey, we have 40 coaches. And soon when we start doing this training, the video training, and we're going to have even more coaches. So we started realizing that we have a responsibility with those coaches, not just with the kids that come to camp or the parents that come to camp and hear the gospel. And we're so excited about that. What about the training of what we do with our own coaches, and how do we build into them? So you could go to the next slide. So now we started doing, with our own coaches, we started recommending to them that they go on mission trips that are sports related, so that when they come back and help us, they have a little bit more of a worldview that's going on. So of course it helps the place that they're going,